All right, friends. We are live. And we got the man with the plan, Mr. Blake Smith, with me.
I'm back.
This guy, I know he's back. Hey, man, you look good. So you went on a camping trip?
Yeah, it was actually really good. I just want to let everybody know it was a really great opportunity. My wife and I went up to Clintonville, Wisconsin, where our current president has a lake house. Brent has a lake house. And while we officially didn't deem it an AAMN presidential summit, we got a lot of good work done. And while still, having some time off unplugging, but being able to talk about the sight lines of where each one of us, to reflect on where we've come over the last year, as well as my vision for, the future. And we're really excited for it, and good advice. Some one-on-one in-person time with, instead of being over the phone, it really did a body good. And at the same time, my wife and I got up to, if you've never been up to Door County in Wisconsin, oh my gosh, it is so cool. It's like the upper Midwest wine country. It's that little slit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a little slit in between Green Bay and Lake Michigan. And we thought we would just do a day trip, and we're like, oh, we'll just hit as many wineries as we can and not be in too big of a hurry. And out of the 8, we got to 6 of them because, we plug in our GPS after the first one. We're like, okay, it's probably going to be another 30-minute drive and everything. We plug in the GPS, they're like 5 miles away. And we're like, we're traveling this entire. So we got around the entire peninsula, except for the very maybe top 4th, way up there. But there was only one other winery that far. So it was really beautiful, like always, like northern Michigan and northern Wisconsin is, and Minnesota, if, our members that are up there. It's a beautiful area, great wine, just time to unwind and unplug for a little bit. So I loved the show that you guys did last week. I watched a little bit as soon as I walked in the door after traveling for 10 hours.
I'm telling you, man, Wesley Willis, dude, just brings so much value, man. I'm so glad that he was able to join us on the podcast. Great conversation. It was good. It's good stuff.
So I'm glad to be back. What do we talk about today?
Right on, man. Well, we got a few things we're going to talk about. This morning, let's see. It was soon. But my homie Ian Saludares, past guest host and Midwest chapter president, extraordinaire. This guy, it was on the money. As soon as I posted the question, my question was, I can actually, let me just read the question. But he was the first to respond. I said, "What's up, friends? How's the weekend going? I'd like to get the convo going. Do you invest in personal development? Let's start with books. Harry Truman said all readers are not leaders, but all leaders are readers. So if you're a reader, what are you reading now? If you have some great suggestions, post them below." And I said, we'll continue this convo in later today. And then, man, out of that, I got some great responses, quick responses. So, I think that the first thing we should do, we should start talking about, this is a very important topic to me. If you can see behind me, that's just one of my bookshelves. All right. I can't, there are tons of books.
You have many leather bound books is what you're telling me.
I got a lot of leather bound books, but I got a lot of books, period.
Yeah. Does that room smell like rich mahogany?
No. It smells like a Labrador. Because this is where my yellow lab comes to sleep at night whenever we're, all in bed. But anyway, so, I think reading is so important, man. And there's just so many people who don't do it. I have this conversation with people, I guess pretty often, because I'm always reading, and they'll ask, "What you're reading?" And so I'll say, I'll tell them what I'm reading. I'll tell them a little bit about it. I'll say, "So you reading anything?" And they're like, "Well, I don't have a lot of time," that kind of thing. And
I made the same excuse myself, and you always can make an excuse, new baby, all that stuff. And, I've kind of taken a little hiatus myself just recently because, after 2 years of just intensive reading and stuff for my master's degree, you get burned out a little bit. And I want to enjoy my reading. And so with the baby and, there's my excuse right there. But I'm really wanting to get back into it. And instead of being on my phone at night, actually get myself in a book. And I think that's good advice for anyone, is that, I think our millennial generation ourselves, I'd say, and again, this is a generalization, but, we go straight to our phones and we're reading articles. We're doing those types of things. We're already reading, but sometimes it's just better to get in a book,
Yeah.
and
that's why I don't read on my phone. The same reason, because I get notifications, man. I mean, I am so apt to just kind of click over and see what's going on, especially because I'm the communications guy, right? So of course I want to know.
You kind of have to be plugged in.
Dude, I gotta unplug and I have to hold a book, right? And I just think it's so important, right? All you got to do is read. Say if you just read 10 pages a night, right? 10 pages a night, 5 nights a week. That's 50 pages, right? So 50 times 52. That's a lot of books, right? There's 52 weeks a year. Just read 5 pages a night, 5 days a week. I mean, you can digest some serious books within a year, and you're outlapping most people, because most people read, I think, 1.5 books a year, I think, on average. And it's like a fiction book, right? Yeah. So they're not even really taking in a whole lot of value whenever they do it. But so I think it's kind of important. I heard a quote one time by a guy named Jim Rohn, and he said, that life puts its best stuff on the top shelf, right? And so sometimes you got to stand on the books you read to be able to reach those things. I've always taken that with me, man. I just think that's so impactful. But
nice.
Yeah. So who we got some viewers right now? We do. We got some viewers. Let's see. We got some comments. You guys have any questions? I would love it if some people would tell me what you guys are reading. I'd like to read some of the comments that we have. Ian Saludera says, I love my new Paperwhite Kindle, right? So it's his third one. Dang, that guy burns through some Kindles, or they're just so full of books, right? So he's got to, is there memory on those things?
I have no idea. I don't have a Kindle. I tried to read on one of them before, and I was like, I know that they have a special, lighting so it doesn't hurt your eyes and everything, but I just couldn't get into it. Like, I had to actually, if I'm going to read a book, I got to actually have the book in my hand.
Turn the page.
Yeah.
I'm the same way, dude.
Get a sweet napkin for a bookmark, because you got nothing else. Yeah,
right. Or a straw cover.
Yeah.
Well, so he says, currently reading Creating Magic, 10 Common Sense Leadership Strategies from a Life at Disney by Lee Cockrell. Never heard of that book. Sounds awesome, though.
Yeah. Well, the last book I read was If Disney Ran Your Healthcare System. And I know a lot of people are aware of that book, but I actually asked if I could read that for one of my leadership papers I was writing for a master's program. And it really dived into the very common issues between healthcare systems and just, I would say, the regular entertainment market of customer service, and I would ask anybody to try a challenge if there's anybody better at customer service than Disney. You may have some other opinions, especially those who may have worked at Disney. Everybody's got their flaws and everything with their employees and how they do their business and everything. But for the one thing, though, the customer service, when you walk in as a customer to Disney, you are treated like royalty.
Oh yeah, that's no doubt.
And when I read that book, I was, there's a little bit of me. I was about 85% there. 15% of me was like, okay, I get it where this guy's going, and there's a lot of good information that the healthcare systems could really use, but I think we're comparing apples to oranges in some cases. Because it's not a
wait a second. Let me go. But in that, I know, and he, it's so funny. I just recently read that book. Okay.
Yeah.
And he handles that objection.
Mm-hmm.
Even the same objection you're giving right now.
I know, and I can't get over it. He gave his argument, and I can't get over it.
It's because Disney, right?
There's a difference between, I don't need to go to Disney. It's not an absolute necessity that I go to Disney. But in times of my life, it's a necessity that I have to go into the healthcare system at some point, whether I'm being born or maybe I'm even born in my house, but that doesn't mean you're not in the healthcare system. Someone comes to your house and helps you birth the baby. And same way when you're on your deathbed, for those or at the end of your life, or you're going through all those types of chronic issues, whenever that may come. Again, it's a need. You're in a different place. When I go to Disney, I'm already excited. I'm wanting to be entertained. I'm not
ready.
when I go to in a hospital bed, I don't want to be entertained, but there's a lot of common issues though that come with it, and what we can do as healthcare professionals to utilize what Disney does and really streamline how we deliver our care. And there's nobody better at it. They streamline everything. Everything is on time. Everything is organized. Everything is efficient. And those are the things that out of that book that I was really struck by. And I was like, that's why I was 85% there, and about 15%. He's not going to be able to talk me into it, because I know he was on the front lines at one point, but he wasn't in the same area, and everybody's going to make that same, argument. Well, you don't know what I've been through thing. So I get my objection and kind of how it comes off, but
it is a good book.
Yeah, it's a great book, and I highly recommend it. And
there was somebody else that said that they had read that. Let me see, who was it? Hang on, I got them reading through these comments here. Oh yeah, it was Clint Coerkemeyer. He's one of my communication guys. I mean, I'm sorry, not communicate. I'm sorry. He's one of my Southern Regional committee members. And he says, for administrators, I recommend If Disney Were in Your Hospital. It's old but good. I'm currently reading the Checklist Manifesto. And of course, Good to Great is always a good read if you haven't heard. Good to Great is a good one. They're really, there's so many great books out there, man. And I'm, the people who are responding that they've read books, these are people that I've talked to, and it does not surprise me. Right? Because like I said, leaders are readers, man. You can tell there's just something about people who, they take in personal development. They want to, get to that next level. They want to upgrade. They want to upgrade. We're always upgrading, right? Upgrading our I have an iPhone, right? So I'm upgrading iOS. I feel like almost every week, right? I upgrade it to a new phone every time a new phone comes out, right? Lots of people do that, but nobody's upgrading, what counts, right? So it's really cool. I can tell the people who answer, I can tell. I know.
How's it going, Vixoni? Thanks for being here. I saw that you popped in here, so I wanted to acknowledge that you were here too. And then Jose, he said he's reading the NCLEX Prep book. And I was like, oh, everybody goes through the coming of age as a nurse to read the NCLEX Prep book. So I don't know how much that it's in really, it's fulfilling for a test. So I feel for you, but I don't, it's not one that I would say is big on professional growth, but it's really meaningful and it really, really helps you. So,
the NCLEX Prep book, I haven't seen that again. Oh, okay. There it is.
The very top.
Finally, so I wasn't able to access my comments. That's cool. I can't see who's commenting, but I can see the comments now.
Gotcha.
NCLEX Prep Bike book. Is that Vixoni? Hey, great book. You definitely need that book. So, speaking of NCLEX, man, let's cruise on into that. Our next thing, what we wanted to talk about is NCLEX test prep. What are you guys doing? There's a lot of people in our organization who are students. As a matter of fact, almost half of our students are, our members are students. So, there could be a great number of you guys that are actually preparing for the NCLEX. It's coming up. I mean, this semester's almost done. It's almost, you're almost a nurse. You're almost there, right?
You're almost there.
So congratulations.
So what Mike and I want to do is, I think you can't put everything in 15 minutes about the NCLEX. No way. What Mike and I talked right before coming on the air, and we were going to talk about NCLEX and very generalized, but you know what? We decided let's do a mini series. And so, because I know a lot of you that are getting done here in July and everything, many states, you got to wait about a month before you can even take it. So, and these are recorded. So whenever you take your NCLEX, it's great because you can always refer to them on our YouTube channel or here on our Facebook page and Facebook group. So we thought we would spend this first time talking about just our personal experience of going through the NCLEX, the intangibles of how we prepped and how we felt going through that time. And then we're going to talk over the next few podcasts about some tips and tricks, and then bringing in the master of all NCLEX.
Oh man, the man,
Bristol, Nurse
big dog.
Tim. We're going to bring him in and try to nail him down for a weekend. A very busy guy like all of us, but he is a wealth of knowledge. And as members, all of you have free access to his webinar. So as like Jose, as you're doing your NCLEX prep for Kaplan, I also highly recommend go onto the Nurse Tim stuff. If you go on our website, I'll show you exactly how to get your free subscription. But you definitely need to get on there because he covers everything, and he's very, very well respected in NCLEX prep. So there's my plug for Nurse Tim.
Why don't you, as a matter of fact, why don't you tell him a little bit more? Why is he so knowledgeable? Tell everybody what he does.
So Nurse Tim, he does a lot. He has his own website based off of, and he does a lot of research and a lot of work in CEUs, not only for faculty but students. It's just a passion of his, as well as he's made it part of his business to really help prepare students to get into the nursing field. And he goes out and not only, dives into the materials such as Kaplan and understands those that maybe work with NCLEX and develop NCLEX questions. But he also, the most important thing is he goes out and he talks to people who have taken the NCLEX, gets their thoughts on it. And he takes all of that material and he then builds these test prep courses, webinars. So they're all encompassing. They're great.
Is that awesome, guys?
Great.
Is that awesome? We're going to bring him on, and you guys are going to ask any questions. He'll take any question.
Yeah, and these webinars are free to you. So you want to talk about a benefit. Everybody's asking, what are my benefits as a member, especially for students? This is one that you can't pass up. You need to go on our website, get the free subscription promo code, go to the Nurse Tim website, and you have access to all of his materials for free. So utilize it because it's very, very important. And I know it will really be of value to you to pass your NCLEX. So, but
awesome.
Mike, do you want to go through kind of your coming to be, taking the test and how you felt?
Yeah, that was man, I was so stressed and it was so crazy. Up to when I was taking my NCLEX, my son had a subperiosteal abscess in his ankle that it developed somehow. We don't even know how it happened. And so he had to be in the hospital for 6 weeks receiving IV antibiotics, right? And he was 12 years old. Mm-hmm. And so during that time, I'm studying for this NCLEX, right? Because, what else are you going to do when you're sitting in the hospital? So I stayed with him, and I remember being so nervous. Guys, I know what you guys are going through. I know you got some nerves going about the upcoming test. What I did? I just studied and I actually lived. I still lived a little bit, I made sure that I didn't spend all my time in the books. But I was, it's hard to do whenever you feel like I got to cram all this stuff in. Mm-hmm. But it's so important for you to continue to do things for yourself, right? Still, if you work out, right? Give yourself an hour a day to do that or whatever it is that you do for fun, continue to do that stuff because that's what I think that really helped me out, but I was so stressed out because at this point, I know you can take it again, but whenever I took it in 2008, you had to wait some time. I don't know how, like now, I don't know how long you have to wait before you take it a second time, but I know that you had to take it some time, apart. So for all that time, I'm like, what am I going to do for work? There's just so much pressure, right? You graduate, you have your degree, but I mean, you can't, what goes a degree if you can't do anything with it, right? So
yeah, for those many people have jobs waiting for them already, and they've filled a slot, but they're waiting for them to pass the NCLEX, and so that adds more pressure.
What about you?
But so me, so I don't know how the other states of the country work, and they may work very similar, but you always had to. We submitted our write to test or, request to test. And usually, but there's about a month time frame, depending on where you go to test and how many spots there are. And so during that time, I was like, man, I have a whole month I've got to do. And I was started getting nervous from the regard of how am I going to retain all of this stuff? And 45 days. That sounds about right when I took it about 6 years ago. 45 days where you can take it again. But so I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? I didn't want to take we took ATI at Nebraska Methodist College.
Oh, we did ATI.
So we did all, I did well on all those except for the labor and delivery. That was the one I had to retake, and I got a good grade the second time. But I had to tell myself, you have to, I wasn't really interested in labor delivery. I thought it was a neat area, specialty, but it just wasn't my thing. So I had to really push myself in that area. But so I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? So we had about 7 or 8 guys, and it doesn't have to be guys, but just we had a core group of individuals that were like, okay, let's get together, and we can't cram. You can't cram.
It's not a good idea.
Even in an accelerated course. And I think I was at an advantage in an accelerated course, just my personal opinion, because I didn't have time to lose any information. I don't know how I would do if I was in a traditional program and you took some stuff back in your freshman year, and now you got to remember back 4 years on some of this stuff. But what's cool about nursing is that it builds upon itself. So it helps. So what we did is we said, okay, out of all 7 of us, which test did we do the worst on in what classes? And if we couldn't remember, we requested that from our professors. And we told them why. He said, hey, we're trying to find the holes in our competence that we don't feel as confident in.
That's good.
And so they let us have that. And then we took out our notes. We kept all of our notes from all of our classes, and we dug them out, our study guides from all those tests, and we reviewed that content together, and we focused on the stuff that we didn't feel confident on, because don't spend your time studying things you already know. I mean, this is a huge test.
Good.
If you're confident in it, don't study it. Obviously review it, but don't sit there for 3-4 hours studying stuff just to make yourself feel good because you already know the answer. Focus on the stuff you don't know.
What really kind of worried me is that I was working for 2 years during clinicals, right? And so what you do in the field isn't what they do in the books always, right? Yep. And so
I always tell preceptees that
there's this dichotomy of information. Whenever you go through a question and you're like, oh my gosh, we do it this way. And it makes sense this way, but in the book we study this way, it makes sense this way, and you have these select all that apply except for the one that's not, or something. Well, those crazy questions that come up, right?
Yeah. So what I did is, other than that, so we did that as a group. We met about 4 times, once a week, and didn't do more than 2 hours of studying. And Dr. Bly makes a great point. We can't stress enough. Do not cram. Do not cram. Make this a part of your routine over the next month. Pace it out and start with the parts that you least remember or feel you don't remember or don't feel confident on, and study that possibly in a group. And then what I did, and I'm not going to mention the app unless somebody wants. I'm not going to plug, but there's many good apps out there. But what I did is I downloaded an app that, yes, it was $30 for the app, but it was worth it. I was investing in myself. So what I did is I downloaded it. It had 1,800 sample questions. And I told myself every day, oh, wow, 2,000. I don't know how you study that way. But I told myself, I'm going to answer no more, no less of 50 questions a day to get myself prepared of how to answer a question. Because I'll tell you, the trick to the NCLEX, in my opinion, is not the content so much. It's how it's worded and how it's presented to you and how you read into the question and how you answer.
This is gold. This is gold, friends. This is gold. So, this is what he's saying. This is very important.
So it's very key. So what I would do is I would stand in the grocery line, answer 3, answer 4, remove myself. So I could really think about the question. And then if I got it wrong, I would give the explanation, and I would read it over, study it, reflect on it for about a couple minutes, try to say, okay, that makes sense. If I have another question like that. So I did that 50 questions a day. I was close to over 1,000 questions that I've answered over the past month. So when I went into that test room, I felt like, hey, I've been doing this every day, but I haven't answered like 150, 200 a day, because you're going to wear yourself out, because these are complicated questions. So you don't want to walk into it and be like, oh my gosh, my brain's fried already because I studied too much. You're not going to do well if you do that. So, but the key, and when Mike's talking about gold, is that read into the question. And I think the computer-based test lets you electronically write and everything on it. It's got little cursors and stuff like that. I don't know for sure, but that's what I hear. But what I used to do this on my regular nursing test too. I'd scribble and cross things out. And so what I did is I read the question in its entirety, and then I go back and I say, is it asking for an assessment? Is it asking for an intervention? What is it asking for? And so for an example of if it's asking for an assessment, and there's 4 answers and 2 of them are interventions, cross them out.
50-50
right there. Get them out of your mind. Yeah, get them out of your mind. So don't even worry about them, because a lot of the, as everybody knows, a lot of these test questions are about, there's like 3 different right answers, but what's the best answer? So any way you can help eliminate things to just get them out of your mind so you can critically think, do it. Same way with intervention. If it's an intervention, don't be putting down assessments. And that goes for select all applies too. It really helped me, because
those are the worst for me, man.
It almost started pointing out to you. It's like these bells are ringing, like, oh my gosh, the answers start jumping out at you a lot more when you start thinking about that. That's how nursing questions trick you. Like when they talk about tricking, they'll give you something that sounds really good, but it's not the same. It's not the best. It's not the best. It's not the action. So that's the biggest advice I could give on how to answer a question is really, they give you a paragraph, but identify and circle if it says assessment or it says intervention in it, circle it, because that's what they're trying to get at. They may give you all this information that really doesn't pertain to what they're asking, but they want you to critically think. So they're throwing a bunch of information at you, like in real life. When you're a nurse, you're going to get a bunch of information slammed at you. That's true. And then somebody's going to ask you the specific question, and you have to cipher through all of that. So they're preparing you. But
hey, another thing is whenever I'm reading a question, what I try, and I started doing this probably the second year of clinicals. I would actually just think through the question. I wouldn't look at the answers. Yep. And I would, I'd cover them up, and I would say, what would your answer be? And if that answer shows up, that's probably the answer, Yeah.
And trust in yourself,
because I'll second guess myself if I do it otherwise. Right.
All this, and then when I start second guessing
myself, I'm like, oh man, shoot. I shoot myself in the foot, man, every time.
That's the other thing is, and again, NCLEX, you can kind of go back. You can't go back. So it's, when you took regular nursing tests, you could go and say, I'm going to skip it. Because that's the advice I'd give you if you're taking a regular nursing test is if you don't know in the first 10, 15 seconds, come back. But in the NCLEX, you can't, because it base the test off of how you answer that question. And it goes up and down in competencies. And that's why some people take 75 questions. That's why you can be the poor soul that I was, and was picked to do all 265 questions because I was one of the test random subjects. So another tip.
Or actually, I was just doing terribly. And so it kept question. So I'm just hoping that it was the first. They're like, okay, this guy, we're going to give him the
and the only reason why I knew that is I kind of started suspecting that, even though I didn't, you tell yourself that, but you don't really know until, I found out later I was. But the last 30 questions were select all that apply for me. The last 30 in a row, just one after another, after another, after another, after another. Yeah. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
Wow,
and I'm trying to tell myself,
yikes.
I'm doing good. I have to be doing good. But then you start thinking to yourself, maybe I'm not doing good. But I'm like, they're all select all applies. I have to be doing good.
Like, man, this guy is a genius. We gotta stump him. We gotta stump him.
So don't freak out if you see everybody leave the room and you were still there. And also, when you get to about question 90 or 100 and you feel like you got to pee or you got to take your break, I don't care if it comes back, you come back and you answer the next question and it shuts off and you're done. You're going to thank yourself because, again, by experience, I didn't do that. And so learn from my mistake that I was like, okay, it's got to be the next question. Oh, it's got to be the next question. Oh, it's got to be the next question. I kept doing that. And I started getting in my head. And you don't want to do that. And you're already nervous enough. Plan this stuff out. Get a game plan. It's just like any sport. When I'm coaching here, is you got a game plan. When you hit question 92, say, if I get to question 92, I'm taking a break. And you stick to it, no matter what.
Nice.
Because that was your game plan. That was your thought process going into this.
Yep. And
so play the game. And the other part I wanted to touch on, so we don't get too long going here, is that
hey, by the way, Ian said it took him 75 questions.
Of course it did, Ian. Of course it did.
Of course it took him 75 questions. The man's genius.
But the one thing I will say is it's gonna feel intimidating when you show up. And we're telling you all these things not to intimidate you now. We're doing these things so that you're expecting them, so that you be like, oh, Blake and Mike talked about this. All right, I got this. This is all right. So when you go into that testing facility, they're going to ask you for all of your stuff, anything that you could write on, even your glasses. If you have a pair of Google glasses, please don't take them with you, because even if you didn't put stuff on the lenses of them, which I didn't know these existed, but like that makes so much sense. Because people would put like notes on the inside of the glasses you can see. They will take them from you. Or if they even look like Google glasses, they will take them from you. And so, and then you can't see. So for those of you that are really high tech and have those, that's my suggestion.
I mean,
but
let's just revert back to integrity. Yeah. Just study. Do the steps. And actually, I was reading a blog, and there's some great tips here. I want to read it to you.
Yeah, go for
it. So understanding the format, we kind of touched on that, right?
Yeah.
You de-stress techniques. Make sure that you're de-stressing every day. Make sure that you're doing those things to just get out of the way. Like you were just studying a few questions a day, and then you were pulling away. That's great. I think that's a great, because otherwise you'll go crazy, right?
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Don't draw from clinical or work experience. That's kind of like what I was saying, right? Don't. Whenever you're looking at these questions, don't think about what you do on a daily basis, right? Or what you did, like in say
that one time with my preceptor.
Yeah,
we did,
right. Yeah, don't draw from the. Yeah, exactly. Test taking skills. So we kind of touched on that. Let's see. Invest in resources, like you said, right? Buying that app. It's $30, but who knows, man? Your income is, $30, that's so that doesn't even count in the grand scheme of things. I'd blow $30, right? On the weekend, on a weekday, on breakfast, let's see, invest in resources, and then tips to prepare for exam day. So I actually went through a whole lot of tips.
Oh, good.
Through on exam day. So one of the ones that they, and actually there's just a whole bunch of great information here. I want to just kind of go through the list that I can recall what the blog said. Yeah, of course, get a good night's sleep, right? Mm-hmm. Go to bed early. There was one, I think this was in a different blog, but it said, make sure that you get up super early, like the day before, super early. So you're so tired, and then you can just kind of coast to sleep around 8 or 9 o'clock. So that's actually a great idea. So just get up at like 4 a.m. So by the time 8 o'clock rolls around, You can just, that's it. I'm going to sleep, and then you can sleep a good 9 hours before you get up.
Mhm.
That's a great idea. Have some
Well,
breakfast, whatever
and
you
the
do
way
at that point. You've studied up until that point. There's nothing else you
Yeah.
can do. You're not
Nope.
going to be able to, you just forget about it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
The night before, I wouldn't even study. I would just
Yeah.
take it.
Prepare yourself.
Yeah,
And
right.
I would say, and my thing is, if that works for you to get up earlier in the morning because you know that your mind's going to be racing and that may help you. The one thing I would say is start getting in a routine a month before, and start like so that you don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. the night before. Get yourself into a routine of waking up earlier, a little bit earlier, a little bit earlier, going to bed a little bit earlier, a little bit earlier, and anybody who's in sports or athletes does this too. You train and get yourself ready so that you're not, when you have a 7 o'clock game in football, you start doing some night workouts. When you have when you're coming up with 11 o'clock game, you're getting yourself up earlier and practicing in the mornings to get your body used to doing things at that time of day.
Nice.
And so I would say get in a routine and don't comparative when your test is, and don't change too much what you're doing, because you've gone through nursing and you've been studying and you've been doing a certain way. You've been taking this information in a certain way. And if you at the last minute completely flip and try to do something different, you're not going to feel right. You're not going to feel as confident, because one, you're going to be too tired, or you just threw your biochemical clock off just so that to help yourself out. So if it works for you and you're just not a night sleeper or early sleeper, and you think that may help you, I think that's great advice. But I think my advice I would give is coming from again, my coach's perspective. I would say get yourself, game plan and prep yourself like you would if you were going to, if you understand sports. Not all of us are athletes, but if approach it that way, that this is a game. This is, for me, the Big Ten championship.
This is it.
And you're preparing yourself. You want to be in your prime shape mentally. But you don't want to freak yourself out either. Okay. Don't freak yourself out and be like, oh my gosh. And I think throttling down 24 to 48 hours before, because you haven't crammed, to Dr. Bly's point, you haven't done that.
We haven't crammed.
So you are prepared, and know that you're prepared. Have a good breakfast. Start eating breakfast. If you don't have a breakfast eater, start eating breakfast 2 weeks in advance if you want to have a good breakfast in the morning, because you need that glucose up in that brain to help you out. Right. So prepare your body. Don't just randomly eat a big breakfast, because you're not going to feel good when you
also. He says bring a blanket or a extra layer. There's nothing worse than sitting in a room freezing to death. You can't focus on nothing else, but you just it's cold in here, right? Yeah. So bring another layer, So
don't be weirded out if the tester looks that blanket up and down and all around, and don't be weirded out about that. And I can't stress that enough.
Or a jacket, you can bring it or a hoodie or whatever.
Yeah. But, and so I would say the last thing when you walk into that room, because if it's anything like when I tested, it looks like a control room, and you walk in and they may wand you, they may not. So again, don't get freaked out if they do that. They may wand you just because they're very, very meticulous, because you earn this. If you get this, you earn it. And they want to make sure that everything is as, we talk about integrity. They want to make sure if you pass this on their own, and no one can question your competence with that license. So they take all of these steps to make sure that no one can question you when you get this license.
That's right.
And so, they sit in this control room, and they have cameras, and you're at these little cubicles. Like I was in this U-shaped cubicle thing, and we all sat, and they give you headphones. And they gave me, I don't know if this is still true, they gave me a 1 sheet of paper and a number 2 pencil, because if there's some math questions, cross multiply. And so
pharmacology.
Yeah. And so, and then you sit there and you take there'll be some, instructions, take some practice questions, make sure you know how to answer them and all that stuff. And then you get into it, and everybody's going to be fine. I always told my preceptees that were preparing is that, this, you would not be here. You would not be a senior level nursing student. You wouldn't graduate from your nursing college if you weren't competent. Now it's all about how you're going to prep and be confident when you prep. That's what it's all about, because you would not have gotten that degree if you weren't going to be a competent nurse. But now it's about testing and taking a test. And I know some people are it's a lot harder for people to take tests than others. And so you really just got to prepare and feel confident when you go in. And that's probably the best advice I can give you. So don't stress out about it after we talked about all this stuff. This is about to help you prepare. So
I have something I want you guys to see. It's hilarious. And it's exactly what I picture. Like, hang on, let me pull this up. So it's exactly what I picture. Like, okay, how some people, they have these videos and they put like, it's a meme, right? And so you put whenever, like, we'll just say this is me taking the NCLEX, right? So I'm going to share this with you, and I want you guys to love it. And so this will be the last thing that we see going out, all right? So let's first wrap up. Do you have any great discussion tonight, guys? Great discussion, by the way. I really appreciate all you guys. Blake and I both appreciate all you guys that are contributing to the conversation. We hope that this helps, and we're really, really excited to lead up to the NCLEX interview with Tim Bristol, and that's going to be huge, guys. So we're not going to go too overboard marketing that, but we want to make sure that everybody knows that that's coming up, and we want people to be able to get on, because this is a big deal. The NCLEX is a big deal, and we want you guys to pass first time and one and done. We want you to one and done it, okay? So anyway, thanks so much.
And I think we're one last thing. I think Mike and I are discussing with, and we're going to talk to the communications team. We think we may make that on our public page, so you won't have to be a member to get on that interview. And because we want all of your colleagues as well, your future colleague nursing cohort members, to have access to that too, so that they can see the great stuff in AAMN, and hopefully they'll see value and want to become part of our organization. So invite them and help market it. And let them know that, coming from two guys who've taken it somewhat recently, but at the same time, we're bringing in a very, very high level expert, and we'll be able to have the conversation and get to answer the questions that you have, and not just have it in a lecture format. So,
all right, guys. So that is it for us. Somebody said my flight is taking off. See y'all next time. Jose Alejandro. Hey, man, thanks so much for joining us. And everybody else, please stay tuned just for a few minutes. I'm going to put this video on, and I want you to this is just imagine me and Blake. We're about to sit and take the NCLEX, okay? You guys ready? Blake, sir, it was a pleasure. I will talk to you guys later. Here we go. I'm going to share this desktop here, if that works. Can you guys see this?
I'm not seeing it.
Oh, you're not seeing it?
No, I'm not seeing it.
Oh, no. Hang on, let me see if I can figure it out. Oh, here we go. All right.
There it goes. Doesn't have any volume, though.
There's no volume?
No.
Hang on a sec.
Ah, you might have to just tell them what the link is. We're still going with we're still trying to figure out all of the crazy technology this thing has. So, thanks for being your experiment, guys.
I could hear the movie.
Yeah, I can't hear anything, but we'll figure it out and see how we can do these videos on this Be Live.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it underneath. You guys got to watch it. It's hilarious. Anyway, you guys take care. We had a great time. Watch the video. I'm going to post it below. You guys are going to love it. If you've ever seen Spies Like Us, I know a lot of you guys on there have seen Spies Like Us, right? It's a great classic. I've watched it. I don't know how many times, but just pay attention. You guys are going to love it. This is NCLEX. This is Blake and I, NCLEX. Blake, you take it easy, brother.
Yeah, see you guys later.
I will see everybody later. All right. Take care. Bye.